The entire pack laughed when the mute Omega was dragged into the moon ceremony and humiliated before everyone. They ripped apart her notebook, mocked her silence, and called her worthless. Even the Alpha stood there and did nothing. But hours later, when a rogue army attacked the kingdom, a terrifying truth came to light. The Omega they had mocked was the only one who had tried to warn them. And by the time the Alpha realized his mistake, she had already disappeared into enemy territory. Alone. What he discovered next would bring the most powerful Alpha in the kingdom to his knees in tears. Stay until the end, because this story's final revelation will change everything. If you enjoy werewolf stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more epic Alpha and Omega adventures. Chapter 1. The wind howled through the towering pine trees surrounding Nightshade Pack territory, carrying with it the scent of rain and pine sap. Arya Frostwillow barely noticed. Her arms were full of freshly washed ceremonial cloths as she hurried across the courtyard, her head lowered as always. Years of mockery had taught her one lesson. Don't attract attention. Unfortunately, attention always seemed to find her. There goes the mute. A group of young she-wolves standing near the training grounds burst into laughter. Arya kept walking. Maybe she's practicing her Luna speech. More laughter followed. One of them pretended to choke. Oh wait, she can't give one. The others doubled over. Arya's grip tightened around the cloths. The familiar sting spread through her chest. Even after all these years, the words still hurt. Not because they were true, but because nobody ever bothered to know the truth. She continued toward the Great Hall. The massive building stood at the center of Nightshade territory, decorated with silver banners and moonstone lanterns. Tonight was one of the most important nights in pack history. Alpha Draven Nightfang's moon ceremony. The entire kingdom had gathered to witness the event. Warriors, merchants, elders, guests from neighboring packs. Everyone expected Draven to announce his future Luna. The celebration had been planned for months. Which meant everyone was busy. Including Arya. Especially Arya. Because low-ranking Omegas did most of the work nobody else wanted. Cleaning. Cooking. Carrying supplies. Preparing decorations. While everyone else celebrated, Arya quietly served. Just as she always had. She entered the Great Hall through the servant entrance. The moment she stepped inside, chaos surrounded her. Workers rushed back and forth. Tables overflowed with food. Silver chandeliers sparkled overhead. The entire room looked beautiful. At least it would until the guests arrived. A familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. Arya. She turned. A smile immediately appeared on her face. Tessa Willowheart hurried toward her. The Gamma was one of the few people who had ever treated Arya like a normal person. You've been working since dawn again. Arya shrugged. Tessa sighed. One day you're going to learn how to rest. Arya pulled her notebook from her apron pocket and quickly scribbled. Somebody has to make sure everything is ready. Tessa laughed softly. See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Arya smiled. Moments like these were rare. But they mattered. Because they reminded her that not everyone in Nightshade Pack hated her. Just most of them. Suddenly the hall doors opened. The room instantly fell silent. Alpha Draven Nightfang entered. Tall. Powerful. Commanding. Everything an Alpha should be. His black uniform bore the silver crest of Nightshade Pack. His dark hair was perfectly groomed. And his piercing golden eyes seemed capable of seeing straight through people. Every wolf immediately bowed. Including Arya. When she looked up again, she found herself staring at him. For a brief second. Nothing more. Yet something strange happened. A sudden warmth flickered inside her chest. So brief she almost imagined it. Then Draven continued walking toward the council members without a second glance. The feeling disappeared. Arya lowered her eyes. Of course. Why would the Alpha ever notice someone like her? A mute Omega servant. She returned to work. But she didn't notice Draven briefly glance back over his shoulder. Nor did she notice the slight frown crossing his face. As though he felt something unusual too. Something he couldn't explain. By sunset, the great hall was overflowing. Music filled the air. Laughter echoed from every corner. Expensive perfumes mixed with the scents of wolves from across the kingdom. Arya should have been resting. Instead, she was delivering the final trays of drinks. The last task before she could disappear into the background. Exactly where she preferred to be. She moved carefully through the crowd. Nobody paid attention to her. Until someone deliberately stepped into her path. Crash. The tray slipped. Several glasses shattered across the floor. The entire hall turned. Arya froze. A familiar voice laughed. Lyria Blackwood. The daughter of Elder Magnus. The woman everyone expected Draven to choose tonight. Oh dear. Her smile was cruel. What a surprise. Several wolves snickered. Lyria looked at the broken glass. Can the poor mute not even carry a tray? Laughter spread. Arya immediately knelt to clean the mess. She hoped that would end it. Instead, it made things worse. Look at her. Pathetic. She's lucky the Alpha allows her to stay here. Imagine being born without a voice. The comments came from every direction. Arya focused on the floor. Ignore them. Just ignore them. She had survived worse. Much worse. Then Lyria spotted the notebook sticking out of Arya's apron. Her eyes lit up. Oh look. She reached down and grabbed it. Arya's heart stopped. No. Not that. The notebook wasn't just paper. It was her voice. The only way she communicated. The only place where her thoughts existed. Arya immediately stood and reached for it. Lyria pulled it away. What does she write in here? More wolves gathered. Curious. Amused. Hungry for entertainment. Lyria opened the notebook. Her expression twisted. Let's see. She began reading random entries aloud. The crowd laughed. Arya felt her face burn. Those pages contained her private thoughts. Memories. Dreams. Warnings. Everything. She desperately reached for the notebook again. Lyria jerked it away. Oh no. The woman smiled. You want this? Several wolves laughed harder. Then Lyria did something unforgivable. She ripped out a page. Then another. Then another. Tear. 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 The sound echoed like a knife through Arya's chest. No. Tessa shouted. But it was too late. Pages scattered through the air. Months of writing drifted across the floor like snow. The hall erupted with laughter. Arya stood frozen. Her entire body shaking. Nobody helped. Nobody stopped it. Not the elders. Not the warriors. The silence hurt more than the laughter. Far more. Something inside her broke. Slowly, she knelt and gathered the torn pages. One by one. While hundreds of wolves watched. Humiliated. Alone. Invisible. Exactly as she had always been. When she finished, she stood. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. She opened the notebook to one remaining blank page. Her hand trembled as she wrote. Then she tore out the page and handed it directly to Draven. The hall became silent. Everyone watched. Draven accepted the paper. Confused. Arya met his eyes. Pain filled hers. Then she turned and walked away. Without looking back. The hall remained silent until the doors closed behind her. Only then did Draven glance down at the note. A single sentence. Written in neat handwriting. I tried to warn all of you. His eyebrows furrowed. Warn them? About what? Before he could think further. A deafening howl shattered the night. A border alarm. Every wolf in the hall froze. Then another howl sounded. And another. Panic instantly erupted. Warriors jumped to their feet. Elders exchanged frightened looks. The celebration vanished. Draven's instincts roared to life. What happened? He demanded. A guard burst through the doors. Covered in blood. Breathing hard. The eastern border. The warrior nearly collapsed. Rogues. The entire hall erupted. Draven's eyes narrowed. How many? The guard's face turned pale. Thousands. Silence. Absolute silence. Then the guard spoke the words that sent ice through every wolf present. They crossed the border hours ago. Draven's heart dropped. Hours ago? Impossible. How had nobody seen them? Then his gaze slowly lowered to the note still clenched in his hand. I tried to warn all of you. A terrible feeling settled into his chest. For the first time that night, he thought about the notebook. The one Lyria destroyed. The notebook filled with pages nobody bothered reading. The notebook belonging to the mute Omega. Outside, warning horns echoed across the territory. Inside, Draven stared at the note. And for the first time in years, he wondered if Nightshade Pack had made a terrible mistake. Meanwhile, far beyond the eastern border, hidden among the dark forest trees, a lone Omega ran through the night, clutching a blood-stained dagger, heading straight toward the approaching enemy army. And she was completely alone. Chapter 2. The Great Hall exploded into chaos. Panic swept through the crowd as wolves rushed toward the exits. Guests screamed. Children cried. Warriors grabbed weapons. Within seconds, the celebration that had taken months to prepare became a battlefield command center. Alpha Draven stood at the center of it all. His golden eyes remained fixed on the note in his hand. I tried to warn all of you. The words felt heavier now. Much heavier. Alpha. Beta Riker pushed through the crowd. The eastern patrols have fallen back. Draven immediately focused. Status. The rogues are moving fast. Numbers? Riker's jaw tightened. Far more than we expected. A cold silence followed. Nightshade Pack had fought rogues before. But never like this. Never on this scale. Draven folded the note and slipped it into his pocket. Prepare every warrior. Riker nodded. What about the civilians? Move them into the mountain shelters. Understood. The beta hurried away. Draven turned toward the elders. How did this happen? Nobody answered. The Alpha's voice hardened. I asked a question. Elder Magnus cleared his throat. We don't know. Draven's gaze darkened. For some reason, he didn't believe him. Not anymore. Then another thought entered his mind. Arya. Where was she? He scanned the hall. No sign of her. A strange feeling settled in his chest. Unease. Something wasn't right. An hour later, Nightshade Pack was preparing for war. Torches burned across the territory. Warriors armed themselves. Scouts raced through the forest. Messengers carried urgent reports. Draven stood inside the war room studying a map. The situation looked bad. Very bad. The rogues had somehow avoided multiple patrol routes. They had slipped through blind spots with impossible precision. almost as if they knew exactly where Nightshade's defenses were weakest. The realization made his stomach tighten. Alpha. A young scout entered. Permission to report. Granted. The scout handed over several documents. We found these in the servant quarters. Draven glanced down. His eyes widened. They were maps. Dozens of them. Covered in notes. Warnings. Observations. Enemy movements. Patrol patterns. Potential invasion routes. Every page carried the same handwriting. Areas. Draven immediately grabbed one. His pulse quickened. The dates stretched back weeks. Weeks. She had been documenting everything. Every suspicious movement. Every unusual scent. Every missing patrol. Every sign of danger. And nobody had listened. Not a single person. The Alpha slowly lowered the pages. For the first time that night, genuine guilt stabbed through him. She really had tried to warn them. Over and over again. And they had laughed. Meanwhile, miles away from Nightshade territory, Arya ran through the darkness. Branches scratched her skin. Cold air burned her lungs. But she refused to stop. The rogue army wasn't moving randomly. She knew that. For weeks she had followed their tracks. Observed their scouts. Studied their movements. Something larger was happening. And now it was too late to convince anyone. Too late to stop the invasion. Unless... She reached the abandoned watchtower near the eastern cliffs. The old structure overlooked the entire valley. If she could reach it, she might still discover the rogue's true objective. Arya climbed carefully. The wooden stairs creaked beneath her feet. Finally she reached the top. And froze. The sight below nearly stole her breath. Hundreds. No. Thousands. Rogue wolves filled the valley. Their campfires stretched endlessly into the darkness. But that wasn't the worst part. At the center stood a massive black banner. A symbol Arya recognized immediately. Her blood turned cold. Impossible. It couldn't be. Yet there it was. The mark of the Shadow Fang Legion. A rogue force believed destroyed years ago. Arya's hands trembled. If they were truly back. Nightshade Pack was in far greater danger than anyone realized. Then she heard a sound behind her. A growl. Low. Dangerous. Arya spun around. 3 rogues stood at the top of the tower stairs. Smiling. They had found her. Back at Nightshade territory. Draven couldn't stop reading the maps. Each page made him feel worse. Arya had been right. Again and again. The evidence was undeniable. Alpha. Riker entered. We have another problem. Draven looked up. What is it? The mute Omega. Something inside him immediately tightened. What about her? We can't find her. The room became silent. Explain. We searched the kitchens. The servant quarters. The herb gardens. Nothing. Draven stood. When was she last seen? Riker hesitated. Leaving the ceremony. The Alpha's jaw clenched. For some reason, he couldn't shake the image of her gathering those torn notebook pages from the floor. While everyone laughed. Including himself. No. Not laughed. But he had done something almost as bad. Nothing. He had done absolutely nothing. And now she was missing. A feeling he didn't understand spread through his chest. Fear. Real fear. Expand the search. Riker blinked. Alpha? Now. The beta nodded immediately. Yes, Alpha. As he turned to leave, another scout burst into the room. Covered in blood. The wolf looked terrified. We found signs of combat near the eastern cliffs. Draven's eyes narrowed. What kind of signs? The scout swallowed. Several dead rogues. The room fell silent. Riker frowned. How many? The answer shocked everyone. 23. Silence. Absolute silence. 23 rogues. Dead. By themselves? Impossible. Then the scout continued. There was only one set of tracks. Draven's pulse quickened. One set. Only one. A terrible suspicion formed. No. Riker whispered. The Alpha stepped forward. Whose tracks? The scout hesitated. Then answered. Omega tracks. The room exploded with disbelief. That's impossible. No Omega could do that. 23 rogues? The scout shook his head. I saw it myself. Draven's heart pounded. Arya. Could it really have been her? The same woman everyone called weak? The same Omega they mocked? Before anyone could speak further, another warrior rushed into the room. His face was pale. Alpha. What now? The warrior looked shaken. We captured one of the rogues. Draven's eyes hardened. Bring him. Minutes later, a wounded rogue was dragged inside. Blood covered his armor. His face was bruised. Yet he smiled. A disturbing smile. Draven stepped forward. Who leads your army? The rogue laughed. You're asking the wrong question. Draven's patience disappeared. What does that mean? The rogue's eyes gleamed. You should be asking about the girl. The room froze. Draven's stomach dropped. The Omega? The rogue laughed again. Yes. Fear flashed across the prisoner's face. Actual fear. The kind warriors rarely saw in enemies. Then he spoke. And every wolf in the room felt chills. The mute girl isn't dead. Silence. The rogue swallowed hard. We tried to kill her. His hands trembled. Moon goddess help us. The smile vanished from his face. We should have run. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The rogue stared directly at Draven. Then whispered. Your Omega is hunting us. The room fell completely silent. And for the first time that night, Alpha Draven realized he knew almost nothing about Arya Frostwillow. Chapter 3. Silence consumed the war room. No one spoke. No one moved. The rogue's words echoed through every wolf's mind. Your Omega is hunting us. The statement sounded absurd. Impossible. Ridiculous. And yet, 23 dead rogues had already been found. Draven stared at the prisoner. Tell me everything. The rogue swallowed. For the first time, fear completely replaced the arrogance on his face. You don't understand what we saw. The Alpha stepped closer. Then explain it. The rogue's eyes trembled. We cornered her near the eastern cliffs. The room became silent. There were 8 of us. She was alone. She should have died. The rogue looked away. Instead of embarrassment, pure terror crossed his face. She killed 6 before we even realized she was attacking. Several warriors exchanged shocked looks. The prisoner continued. One moment she was there. The next she vanished. Then wolves started falling. His voice cracked. I've fought warriors. I've fought alphas. I've fought trained assassins. But that girl. The rogue shuddered. She's different. Draven's jaw tightened. The description didn't match the Omega he knew. The quiet servant. The woman everyone ignored. The woman who spent her days gathering herbs. It made no sense. Yet something deep inside him whispered a troubling possibility. Maybe nobody had ever truly known Arya. Hours later. Nightshade warriors flooded the eastern forest. Search parties spread in every direction. Torches illuminated the darkness. Draven led the largest group personally. He didn't fully understand why. Part of him claimed it was strategic. Arya knew things. Important things. Finding her could help save the pack. But another part of him knew the truth. This wasn't about strategy anymore. This was personal. Very personal. The Alpha pushed through thick undergrowth. His senses remained focused. Listening. Searching. Hoping. Then Riker suddenly raised a hand. Stop. Every warrior froze. The beta crouched near the ground. His expression darkened. What is it? Riker pointed ahead. Blood. Fresh blood. The search party immediately advanced. The further they moved, the worse it became. Broken branches. Destroyed bushes. Deep claw marks in tree trunks. Signs of a brutal fight. Then they found the bodies. 5 rogues. Dead. Every single one. A warrior cursed under his breath. Another looked physically sick. The rogues had not simply been defeated. They had been overwhelmed. Draven examined the scene. The attack patterns were precise. Efficient. Almost surgical. Whoever had fought here possessed extraordinary skill. Then he saw something on the ground. A small silver pendant. His heart skipped. He recognized it instantly. Arya's. The simple moon-shaped necklace she always wore. The Alpha slowly picked it up. Blood stained its surface. Fresh blood. His chest tightened. For reasons he couldn't explain. Far away. Deep within enemy territory. Arya crouched behind a fallen tree. Her breathing remained steady despite the pain shooting through her shoulder. The rogue blade had cut deeper than she initially realized. Blood soaked part of her sleeve. But she ignored it. Pain didn't matter. Not right now. What mattered was the information she'd uncovered. The Shadowfang Legion was real. And their leader had returned. A man Nightshade believed dead. A monster responsible for countless massacres years ago. Arya remembered him well. Too well. Because she had seen him before. When she was younger. When everything changed. A sudden memory surfaced. Fire. Screams. Blood. Children trapped inside a burning structure. A young Alpha heir barely 10 years old. Terrified. Crying. And herself. Running into the flames. Running toward danger. Running to save him. The memory vanished as quickly as it appeared. Arya pushed it aside. Now wasn't the time. She carefully observed the rogue camp below. At the center stood a massive black tent. That was where the leader would be. If she could get closer. A sharp voice interrupted her thoughts. Search the ridge. Her eyes widened. Rogues. Dozens of them. Coming directly toward her position. Arya immediately moved. Back in Nightshade territory. The search continued through the night. Despite exhaustion. Despite growing frustration. Draven refused to stop. Every clue only raised more questions. The Alpha found himself remembering things he'd never considered before. Moments involving Arya. Small moments. The way wounded animals always followed her. The way children trusted her immediately. The strange scars hidden beneath her sleeves. The way experienced warriors occasionally looked surprised whenever she appeared unexpectedly. Had the signs always been there? Had he simply ignored them? His thoughts were interrupted when an elderly healer approached. Heard you're searching for Arya. Draven nodded. The healer hesitated. Then spoke carefully. There's something you should know. The Alpha immediately focused. What is it? The old wolf sighed. I promised never to tell. Draven's expression hardened. Tell me anyway. The healer remained silent for several seconds. Finally. Arya wasn't born mute. The world seemed to stop. Draven stared at him. What? The healer lowered his gaze. She could speak when she was young. Shock swept through the Alpha. Then what happened? Pain appeared in the old wolf's eyes. A tragedy. The healer swallowed. Years ago, rogues attacked a nursery outside Pack territory. Draven felt his pulse quicken. He vaguely remembered hearing stories about such an attack. The healer continued. Several children became trapped. Most adults couldn't reach them. The building was collapsing. His voice trembled. But one young girl ran inside. The Alpha suddenly felt cold. Very cold. Arya? The healer nodded. She saved every child. Silence. Complete silence. Then came the part that changed everything. A burning beam collapsed. It crushed her throat. Draven's breath caught. The healer closed his eyes. She never spoke again. The Alpha couldn't process it. Years. For years everyone had treated her as weak. Mocked her. Humiliated her. Yet she had sacrificed her voice saving children. And nobody talked about it? Why? The healer answered before he could ask. The elders buried the story. Draven's eyes narrowed. What? They feared the attention would elevate her status. The old wolf's expression darkened. So they kept it quiet. Anger exploded inside the Alpha. Pure rage. The kind he rarely experienced. Someone had hidden this. Deliberately. For years. And because of that, the Pack had spent years insulting a hero. A real hero. Dawn approached. The search parties prepared to regroup. Then suddenly. A scout came racing through the forest. Alpha. Draven immediately turned. The young warrior could barely breathe. What is it? We found her. The world stopped. Draven's heart pounded. Where? The scout pointed east. Beyond the ridge. Hope surged through every wolf present. Then the scout finished his report. And the hope instantly disappeared. She's surrounded. The Alpha froze. What? The scout swallowed. At least 50 rogues. Several warriors cursed. The scout's face remained pale. But that's not the worst part. Draven stepped forward. What else? The warrior's voice trembled. Their leader is with them. A deadly silence followed. Everyone knew what that meant. The Shadow Fang leader. One of the most dangerous wolves alive. Draven immediately drew his sword. Prepare the warriors. Every wolf straightened. The Alpha's golden eyes blazed with determination. This time he wouldn't stand by and do nothing. Not again. Not after learning the truth. Not after failing her at the ceremony. Not after discovering what she had sacrificed. He would find her. No matter the cost. No matter the danger. Because for the first time in years, Alpha Draven Nightfang realized something terrifying. The thought of losing Arya hurt more than any wound he'd ever suffered. And he had absolutely no idea why. Chapter 4. The first rays of dawn had barely touched the horizon when Alpha Draven led Nightshade Pack's warriors into enemy territory. No one spoke. No one dared. The tension was unbearable. Every wolf understood what was at stake. If they arrived too late, Arya would be dead. Draven pushed forward relentlessly. Branches snapped beneath his boots. His sword remained clenched tightly in his hand. Beside him, Beta Riker struggled to keep pace. The Alpha had barely stopped all night. He hadn't eaten. Hadn't rested. Hadn't slept. Every minute that passed only deepened the guilt clawing at his chest. The image haunted him. Arya kneeling on the floor, gathering the torn pages of her notebook, while hundreds of wolves laughed. While he stood there and watched. The memory made him sick. Alpha. A scout suddenly appeared ahead. Draven stopped immediately. What is it? The warrior pointed toward a distant ridge. We found the rogue camp. Every wolf instantly tensed. The scout swallowed. But something happened. Draven's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? The warrior looked shaken. There's almost nobody left. Confusion spread through the group. What? The scout's face had gone pale. You need to see it yourself. Minutes later, they reached the ridge. Then they saw it. And silence consumed the entire search party. The rogue camp had become a graveyard. Bodies covered the ground. Tents burned. Weapons lay scattered everywhere. Signs of battle stretched in every direction. A warrior beside Riker whispered. Moon Goddess. Another wolf crossed himself. No one could believe what they were seeing. The rogues hadn't simply been defeated. They had been destroyed. Draven slowly descended into the camp. His eyes scanned the carnage. At least 40 rogues. Dead. Possibly more. Many had fallen while trying to flee. Others looked as though they never saw their attacker coming. Then the Alpha noticed something strange. Every body seemed positioned around one central point. As if the battle had revolved around a single location. Draven followed the pattern. Step by step. Body after body. Until he reached the center. And froze. Blood stained the ground. A lot of blood. Too much blood. His stomach tightened. Then he saw something lying nearby. A torn piece of fabric. Part of an Omega dress. Arya's dress. The Alpha felt his heart sink. No. For the first time since becoming Alpha. Fear completely overwhelmed him. Several hundred yards away. Hidden inside a ruined hunting cabin. Arya struggled to stay conscious. Pain consumed her body. The battle had taken more from her than she wanted to admit. Her shoulder wound continued bleeding. Her side burned whenever she breathed. Several bruised ribs made every movement agonizing. Yet she remained alive. Barely. She leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. The cabin was quiet. Too quiet. Which meant one thing. The rogues were regrouping. And when they found her again, things would become much worse. A sudden sound interrupted her thoughts. Footsteps. Lots of them. Arya's eyes opened instantly. Her hand tightened around her dagger. The footsteps grew louder. Closer. Closer. Then. A familiar voice echoed outside. Arya. She froze. Draven. The cabin door burst open. Alpha Draven rushed inside. The moment he saw her, he stopped. Everything else disappeared. The room. The battle. The war. Nothing mattered. Only her. Arya looked exhausted. Covered in blood. Injured. Yet somehow still standing. Relief hit him so hard it nearly brought him to his knees. She's alive. Moon Goddess. She's alive. The Omega stared at him silently. The familiar distance remained in her eyes. And suddenly Draven hated it. Because he knew exactly who had created that distance. Him. The pack. Everyone. Slowly, he approached. Arya immediately tried to stand straighter. As if preparing herself for criticism. The reaction broke something inside him. Even now. Even after everything. She expected judgment. Not concern. Not gratitude. Judgment. Draven carefully removed his cloak. Then draped it around her shoulders. Arya blinked. Surprised. The Alpha swallowed hard. For a moment he didn't know what to say. Then he finally spoke. "You're hurt." Arya looked away. Draven's chest tightened. "Why didn't you come back?" She hesitated. Then slowly reached for a nearby piece of paper. Her hand shook as she wrote. Draven read the words. "Because nobody listens to me." The sentence hit harder than any weapon. Because it was true. Painfully true. Hours later. Nightshade warriors escorted Arya back home. The entire territory had gathered. News of her survival spread quickly. So did the truth. The truth about the warnings. The truth about the attack. The truth about her sacrifice years ago. For the first time in their lives. Many wolves looked ashamed. Others couldn't even meet her eyes. The same wolves who mocked her at the ceremony now stood silently as she passed. Children she once cared for ran toward her. Adults pulled them back. Embarrassed. Guilty. Uncomfortable. Arya noticed. And somehow that hurt even more. Because now they pitted her. That evening, another shock struck Nightshade Pack. Draven summoned every elder into the council chamber. Including Elder Magnus. The atmosphere was tense. Very tense. The Alpha stood at the head of the table. His expression cold. Dangerously cold. "I want answers." No one spoke. Draven slammed Arya's old maps onto the table. "You ignored these." Silence. "You buried the truth about her." Still silence. The Alpha's patience vanished. "Why?" Elder Magnus finally stood. His face pale. "Because she wasn't supposed to matter." The room froze. Draven stared at him. "What?" The elder swallowed. Then revealed a secret hidden for years. Arya is not an ordinary Omega. The room became silent. Magnus continued. Her mother belonged to the Frostmoon bloodline. Several elders gasped. Even Riker looked shocked. Draven frowned. The Frostmoon bloodline was legendary. One of the founding families responsible for creating Nightshade Pack centuries ago. Magnus lowered his head. If the pack discovered who she truly was, many would view her as noble. Important. Influential. Draven felt disgust rising inside him. "So you destroyed her reputation instead." Magnus remained silent. The silence was answer enough. The Alpha's eyes burned with fury. Years. They had stolen years from her. Years of respect. Years of dignity. Years of happiness. All because a few elders feared her status. Draven turned away. He couldn't even look at them. For the first time in his life. He felt ashamed to call them leaders. Late that night. Arya lay in the healer's den recovering. The territory outside had grown quiet. Most wolves had returned home. Only a few guards remained awake. A healer carefully checked her wounds. Then suddenly frowned. The old wolf checked again. His expression changed. Fear flashed across his face. Arya immediately noticed. The healer looked toward another assistant. "Get the Alpha." The assistant froze. "What?" Now. The wolf sprinted from the room. Arya's heart began racing. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Minutes later, Draven burst through the door. What happened? The healer looked grim. Then delivered words that shattered the room. Her injuries are worse than we thought. Draven felt ice enter his veins. The healer's voice trembled. She's losing too much blood. The Alpha stared at him. No. The healer lowered his head. If we can't stop it before sunrise. His next words hit like a death sentence. Arya may not survive the night. The room fell silent. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Alpha Draven truly understood how close he was to losing her forever. Chapter 5. The healer's words echoed through the room. Arya may not survive the night. For several seconds, Alpha Draven simply stared at him. As if he hadn't heard correctly. As if his mind refused to accept the possibility. Then reality struck. And it struck hard. The Alpha slowly turned toward the bed. Arya lay motionless beneath several blankets. Her face looked pale. Far too pale. The strong, stubborn Omega who had faced an army alone suddenly looked fragile. Human. Breakable. And the thought terrified him. Save her. The healer looked away. We're trying. Save her. The old wolf swallowed. Alpha. Draven slammed both hands onto the table. Do whatever it takes. The room fell silent. Nobody had ever seen him like this. Not even Riker. The Alpha's voice cracked. Just save her. For the first time, the healer saw genuine fear in the Alpha's eyes. Not fear of war. Not fear of losing power. Fear of losing someone he loved. The realization stunned everyone present. Including Draven himself. Because he could no longer deny it. Somewhere along the way, the quiet Omega had become the most important person in his life. And he had almost lost her. Outside the healer's den, word spread quickly. The Omega who saved the pack was dying. By midnight, dozens of wolves gathered outside. Then hundreds. Warriors. Servants. Mothers. Children. Even guests from neighboring packs remained. Nobody wanted to leave. Nobody wanted to believe it. The same wolves who once laughed at Arya now sat in silence. Many cried openly. Others prayed. Some simply stared at the healer's den. Waiting. Hoping. Regretting. Among them stood Lyria Blackwood. The woman who had torn apart Arya's notebook. The woman who had started the humiliation at the ceremony. For the first time in years, she looked completely broken. Tears streamed down her face. Because now she understood. The woman she mocked had spent years protecting people who never appreciated her. And she might die without ever hearing a single thank you. Inside the healer's den, the hours crawled by. Draven never left her side. Not once. The healers changed bandages. Prepared herbs. Mixed medicines. Yet nothing seemed to work. Arya's condition continued worsening. As dawn approached, even the healers began losing hope. The room grew quiet. Too quiet. Then suddenly, one of the healers froze. Her heart beat. Everyone turned. The old wolf immediately checked again. His face drained of color. No. Draven stood. What? The healer's hands trembled. Her heart is slowing. Panic erupted. Several healers rushed forward. Medicines were prepared. More herbs were applied. Nothing worked. Draven felt helpless. Completely helpless. For years he had solved problems through strength. Through power. Through authority. But none of those things mattered now. Because none of them could save Arya. Then. Her heartbeat stopped. The room froze. Silence. Absolute silence. A healer checked again. Then another. The old wolf slowly lowered his head. Tears filled his eyes. No heartbeat. The words shattered the room. One healer began crying. Another looked away. Outside, the first rays of sunrise appeared over the mountains. And inside the healer's den, everything seemed lost. Draven stared at Arya. Motionless. Still. Gone. The realization broke him. The mighty Alpha who feared nothing suddenly felt his world collapsing. Slowly, he approached her bedside. Then something happened that nobody expected. Alpha Draven Nightfang dropped to his knees. Outside, wolves waited anxiously. Then they heard crying. Not from the healers. Not from the servants. From the Alpha. The sound spread through the crowd. Shock followed. Many couldn't believe it. Alpha Draven never cried. Never. Yet the sound coming from inside the healer's den carried unmistakable pain. The kind of pain that only came from losing someone irreplaceable. Inside, Draven held Arya's hand. Tears streamed freely down his face. He didn't care who saw. Didn't care who heard. Nothing mattered anymore. His voice shook. I'm sorry. The words barely escaped. I'm so sorry. More tears followed. I should have listened. His shoulders trembled. I should have protected you. The room remained silent. The Alpha lowered his head. You warned us. You saved us. You saved me. His voice broke completely. And all I ever did was fail you. A single tear landed on Arya's hand. Then another. And another. Nobody moved. Nobody interrupted. The moment felt sacred. Heartbreaking. Raw. Then Luna Cassandra suddenly stepped forward. Her expression was filled with emotion. There is something he deserves to know. The room turned toward her. The Luna looked at Arya. Then at Draven. And finally spoke. The nursery attack. Draven looked up. Confused. What about it? Cassandra swallowed. I never told you who saved you that day. The Alpha froze. His heartbeat stopped. What? Years ago, as a child, Draven had nearly died during the rogue attack on the nursery. He remembered flames. Smoke. Fear. And being carried to safety by someone. Someone whose face he never saw. The Luna's eyes filled with tears. It was Arya. Silence. The world seemed to stop. Draven stared at her. Unable to breathe. Unable to think. No. Cassandra nodded. You were one of the children she rescued. The Alpha felt numb. Completely numb. The Luna continued. She lost her voice saving you. Everything shattered. Every wall around his heart. Every remaining piece of strength. Every defense. The woman he ignored. The woman he failed. The woman he loved. Had sacrificed her voice to save his life. And never once asked for recognition. Never once demanded gratitude. Never once complained. Draven completely broke. Fresh tears streamed down his face. His entire body shook. Because now he understood. Arya had been protecting him his entire life. And he never even knew. Then suddenly. A gasp echoed through the room. Everyone froze. The healer spun around. Wait. Another gasp. Draven's eyes widened. Arya's fingers moved. The room erupted. Check her pulse. The healers rushed forward. Seconds later, the old healer's eyes filled with disbelief. I have it. Nobody breathed. The healer checked again. Then laughed through tears. She's alive. The room exploded with emotion. Relief flooded every corner. Several healers began crying. Riker nearly collapsed. Outside, cheers erupted throughout the territory. The news spread instantly. Arya was alive. She was alive. Draven stared at her, unable to believe it. Then slowly, her eyes opened. Weakly. Slowly. But they opened. The Alpha felt fresh tears forming. For several seconds, they simply looked at each other. Then Arya noticed the tears on his face. Her eyes widened slightly. She had never seen him cry before. Nobody had. Draven took her hand carefully, as though afraid she might disappear. Then he spoke. Not as an alpha. Not as a ruler. Just as a man. I love you. The room became silent. I should have said it sooner. His voice trembled. I should have listened sooner. Another tear escaped. But I love you. Arya stared at him, completely stunned. The Alpha swallowed hard. Then he lowered himself from the chair. And once again, he fell to his knees. This time in front of everyone. The entire room watched. The strongest wolf in Nightshade Pack kneeling before a mute Omega. Not from duty. Not from tradition. But from love. And gratitude. Draven pressed her hand against his forehead. A gesture of the highest respect. Then he whispered. Thank you for saving my life. The room dissolved into tears. Even the warriors cried. Because every wolf present understood the truth. The strongest person in Nightshade Pack had never been the Alpha. It had been the Omega everyone overlooked. 3 months later. The Moonbond ceremony was held once again. This time, the atmosphere was very different. No laughter. No mockery. No cruelty. Only respect. The entire pack stood as Arya entered the hall. Not as a servant. Not as a forgotten Omega. But as the future Luna. The wolves applauded. Children ran beside her. Warriors bowed. Even Lyria publicly apologized before the entire pack. When Arya reached the ceremonial platform, Draven smiled. The moon goddess's blessing illuminated both of them. The bond finally appeared. Bright. Beautiful. Unbreakable. The crowd erupted into cheers. And for the first time in her life, Arya didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. She felt valued. She felt loved. As Draven wrapped an arm around her shoulders, he realized something important. The pack had nearly lost its greatest treasure. But now they would spend the rest of their lives making sure she never doubted her worth again. And beneath the silver glow of the moon, the Alpha and his Luna began their forever.